Please stand. May 28, 2013, Gulf County Board of County Commissioners now in session.
Dear gracious Father God, we come before you today. We ask that you just watch over every individual that's in the building today. Touch our hearts in a special way that we can condone this meeting the way it's going to be condoned. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's do our pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we accept our consent agenda, do we have anyone from the audience concerning our consent agenda, concerning the consent agenda? There's no one from the audience. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Michael Moore. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Mike Daniels. Any opposed?
Mr. Smiley, if I can, I just want to point out pages 21, 28, 29, and 30. There's a proclamation of civility from the local government, city, county, local government law section of the Florida Bar. I just wanted to bring to the Commission's attention back on June 29 of 2000, this county had adopted that proclamation. So it's in your consent today, and it will reaffirm what you already have had in place for 13 years. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you want to include that again to reaffirm your pledge to that proclamation, you certainly can do that.
Any comments?
I think it was part of the consent, and I agree.
Okay, we got a second by Mr. Mike Daniels.
Mr. Chairman, on page 27, we have an LDR updating technical grant. With the board's permission, that is an expense item, and the clerk's office has advised that we use a different org and object code for that grant. So if I could just get that information from the clerk and change that information per the right place with the board's permission. It's a 00134, and I'm not sure of the object code.
So we just gonna leave it in our consent, right?
With the board's permission to move it to a revenue code versus an expense code, yes. We can do that.
Okay, so you say you want to pull it out the consent agenda.
I think what you might want to do is just allow the commissioner to amend his motion to include what Lynn wants to do in that, and we can be through with it.
Okay.
I amend my.
He amended his motion. You got a second? You got a second? We got a motion amended by Mr. Mike Daniels. Second for comment? Can I get a second?
I think the
You
second
seconded.
stands.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was just kind of looking.
Oh.
No, I was waiting.
Okay, second by Mr. Mike Daniels. Any opposed? No opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the first speaker on your agenda this morning is Mr. Leonard Costin on a Port Authority update.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Mr. Leonard,
Yes, sir.
can you give your name and
I start off wrong, didn't I? Leonard Costin, address 9118 Wendell Trap Avenue, Port St. Joe, Florida.
thank you, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you. I'm a voting veteran. Thank you. I'll start over. Mr. Chairman and County Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Leonard Costin, Chairman of the Gulf County Port Authority. I'm here today to provide you with an update on the Port of Port St. Joe and request a revision to terms of a note that we have with the county. As you know, the Port of Port St. Joe is one of the 14 deep water ports in the state of Florida. As such, it's a very important asset to our community. And I can truly say that it's the economic engine of Gulf County, and it will create in time good paying jobs for all our unemployable citizens. When you think about the fact that there are only 14 deep water ports in Florida, you realize there's only 13 to compete with us. This is huge, and it can generate a great bit of business and business opportunities. You realize, of course, what a true asset our port is. Over the last decade, there have been a number of efforts to develop our port and to bring back its heyday, much like the years of late 1930s through the 60s. Because developing, or in this case redeveloping a port, is a very complex and undertaking, there have been many ups and downs, and I think we all would agree it's taken much too long, and it's taken a lot of all of our efforts. Because of the complexity, it clearly requires the efforts of all stakeholders. That means the county, the federal government, the state government, and the strategic partners such as the St. Joe Company. Today I'm here to tell you that these partnerships are working. I want to emphasize they are working. As a result of support of the governmental agencies and the partnerships with St. Joe Company, the following has been accomplished. The list of our accomplishments has been an enhanced national and international marketing utilizing the Bank of Montreal as they have identified potential customers nationally and internationally for users of our port. We retained grant funding from the Florida Department of Revenue to complete the Port Master Plan. That's almost it's in its final pages now of being updated. There was a signing agreement with Eastern Shipbuilding and St. Joe Company. They have not started any work at the moment, but I understand they're still paying the lease and they're still have intentions of being here and bringing with them jobs for our county. The St. Joe Company has signed a letter of intent with Green Circle Bioenergy to utilize a Port St. Joe, and this will help meet the tonnage requirement for us to obtain grants for the future dredging of the ship channel. Now this is big. It's been a chicken and egg situation. It's been very difficult. No longer do we think about if we build it, they will come. Now we think you bring them and we'll help you. That's pretty much the state's mantra now. So it was difficult. We have to have a user before we get the money. But the user wants to make sure we have the money before they want to be a user. So it was solved with a letter of intent with Green Circle, and that is really huge. And they are planning to come bring their product through the A&N Railroad to Port St. Joe and ship it out of our port. Now, that's assuming we have the channel dredged, and that's a biggie. And I think that we're moving forward on that as our number one priority right now. We've also have recently obtained a grant for the environmental and engineering study of the channel, the precursor to dredging, or applying for dredge funds. This is another big one. It requires a $250,000 match, which St. Joe has indicated that they would step up to the plate. They haven't at the moment, but it's in the works, and I think that will happen. And once we get this study, then we move forward with the dredging. Hopefully all this will dovetail with the grants that we apply for, as well as the companies that would like to locate here. We have increased interest from several major potential customers who are close to coming to doing business with Port St. Joe. We've had some announcements, but we're about to have some more. I think most of your commissioners are aware. We have a company that just has great potential that will hopefully soon be announcing their location here in Port St. Joe. And I'd just like to read to you, just to let you know what our people are doing that are out there trying to bring in these jobs. This came from the president of the company that hopefully will very soon announce and locate here. And he sent me an email. I've talked to him several times. And his email said, "You must know that the work Barry Sellers, Tommy Pitts, Patrick Jones, and Quinn Lamb have done for me so far has been incredible. Each one of these gentlemen have treated me professionally and with a huge dose of personal attention. Individually, any one of them have sold me on Gulf County. Collectively, this team has been a great ambassador for business development. If there is ever a need that I can help promote Port St. Joe and Gulf County, I would like to be a part of that." Now that's just a great testament to the job they're doing, I think, and I think you should all know that it takes time, and this time is beginning to come to fruition, and I think we're going to see a lot more development as to jobs and companies moving to Gulf County. That really brings me to the second reason I'm here today. We have challenges, and big challenges, I must say. The one challenge we have right now is we have a note with the county commissioners for $199,000. There's a little ambiguity in the note, but there is a payment of $10,000 now due. The note balloons, I believe, in 2021. But the port, unfortunately, is in no position to repay the note at this time. We're operating on a shoestring, but we're operating, and we're going to stay operating. So I'm coming before you today to ask help with this note in the way of forbearance of the payments at particular times, and to extend the terms of the note. Another challenge we have, of course, is that Capital City Bank has a mortgage on 67 acres of our property. It runs from the industrial road to the canal. There's been $6 million spent on it from other funds besides the port money. It's a great asset. We're fighting it in court. There's a potential that we might have the mortgage vacated, but we don't know at this point what will happen. We're in the legal process. But I'm optimistic that something will happen and that we will retain that asset. But getting back to my second request is I would like to approach the board with the idea that the that the $199,000 note, which is due on in 2021, the terms be changed or altered so that we can simply make a balloon payment with interest. We intend to pay it all with interest at the end of that period. So with that in mind, I open this up to questioning from the commissioners or comments, and I'll be glad to answer anything you have to say. And I would be glad to meet with any of your commissioners anytime. All you have to do is call me. I'll be glad to give you a further update personally. Thank you.
Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments. The only issue,
Go ahead.
okay?
Yeah.
2 or 3 issues I have with the port, but I won't go into all of them, but $200,000 issue is the big issue for me personally, because we have other smaller companies out there that's actually needing that money, that we can roll that money over, to help get somebody else up off the ground.
Sure.
The issue with the port, I think one day maybe we may get something going on it. I've seen a little bit going here lately that I'm excited about. Looks good. This port's been going on for 10 years, and everybody has dumped tons of money into that project. So far, we have nothing, But $200,000, I'm telling you, we need to roll that over to some other companies. So that's my thought. That's the way I feel on it.
Well, I certainly agree with you. I just know I'm a realist, and the reality is such we don't have the money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Costin.
Yes, sir.
Coming this morning. A couple of questions. Taking some quick notes here. You want to extend this payment 2021, is that correct?
Ideally, but we could take.
All right, the bottom line is, let's just be honest, port's broke.
Right, at this point.
I mean, everybody knows third grade
I'm a
class down in St. Joe Elementary knows that.
That's true.
This board has worked with the port. Even when we granted the $200,000, we knew there was a $4-point-something million payment. Probably would, hopefully not, would go into default. What are you willing to offer this board for us to grant? Let's just say, now this is all board decision. I'm just asking these questions, and what are you willing to offer us to extend this? See,
Well,
you're supposed to start paying us, if I understood correctly, and I think it's I was looking back, 2014, $10,000 a year for
Right,
6
right.
years, and then the balloon of
Right,
100+ thousand on the 7th year of a 10-year deal.
Right.
And so what you're telling me, you're not gonna be able next year to pay the $10,000 as we stand right now.
Right.
Okay,
I
my
don't
question
anticipate
is,
having the money,
for
correct.
us to extend this or to defer this till 2021, what are you willing to, what is the port, not you, what is the Port Authority or the members of the port willing to offer us?
I can only speak for myself,
Okay.
Commissioner, but, I'd certainly offer anything within reason,
All right, let me ask you this. I understand, I think I'm correct, on the portion of the property that's under that Capital City
right.
is holding a note against. We do,
You have a
maybe,
second
I think
mortgage.
I'm right, we got a
Yeah,
second
second
mortgage,
mortgage,
second
yeah.
mortgages, or,
That's right.
anyway. Do you own other property?
Well, we own the chemical site.
Okay, the old Arizona Chemical, let me ask you this, you are the owners of it.
Well, the port is, right.
The port is.
Right.
All right, when I say you, I'm talking port.
Right,
Let me
right,
get
okay.
words. Okay. Is that property, does it have any taxes, liens, judgments? Is it clear?
To my knowledge, it is, yes, sir.
Port property is clear, okay?
Oh, yeah.
In this judgment with Capital City, that this money you owe Capital City Bank, is anything in there that ties if, say, hopefully not, but the port defaults and Capital City steps in, they have any right to the Arizona property?
That would be a
And the-
legal question. I don't think so unless
Okay.
they get a judgment. I know they have a less pendants on the property that's 67 acres. In other words, they
All
put
right.
people on notice there's a lawsuit.
All right, so
But not on the, to my knowledge, there's not been anything on the,
Arizona,
chemical.
the Arizona is free.
Yeah.
Would, let me just ask you this question, and we'd have to do, again, it's gonna take, we won't settle this today, I'll
Right,
assure you
okay.
we can't, because you gotta go back to your board.
Right.
And then this board's gonna wanna size this thing up a little bit.
Okay.
Would you be willing to give us a mortgage on that Arizona property?
Me personally, I certainly would, but I can't speak for the port. I'm at the authority.
Well, that's
so-
what I'm saying, you gotta go back to the board, so if
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure
I mean-
somehow here,
Yeah.
you want,
that-
you
that-
come in here before the board and ask us for an extension.
Yeah.
And, so I'm saying but again, let's back up there. Let's just say that your board agrees that they would give us a first mortgage on this Arizona site.
With some type of a forbearance of.
Yeah, and then at a certain time, you will pay us our money back, and then the mortgage will
Will go away, right.
go away. Now, my question is this, as a first mortgage holder, that property, we're talking $200,000, and that property is probably valued,
1.3, 1.3.
How much?
I'd say around 1.3 million, something like
all
that.
right, that's not a bad deal for $200,000, but here's a question let me
Thinking like a
think.
banker now.
Let me think a minute, okay, where am I going?
Well,
Okay, what
so-
about, environmental issues on that property?
Um,
Who would be responsible, if we did, and this board agreed to it, who would be responsible for the environmental issues on that property?
Commissioner Bryant, you're a lawyer.
Oh,
I assume it would be the port.
Assuming,
sorry.
all right, I don't like to deal in that assuming,
Okay,
that's
I
the
know.
reason it's gonna take more time.
Right, okay, I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Is it in a free enterprise zone? All right, let me just rephrase that.
Okay.
Taxes. So probably on $1 million, what'd you say, $1.3 million?
We don't pay taxes. We're tax
All right,
exempt. like
for how long? For
forever.
now on?
For long as we own it, yes.
Okay, all right, so we take the
It's
taxes
a government
off.
agency.
All right, what about the liability? When I'm talking about,
When you have a mortgage, now, I'm not a lawyer, okay, but
No.
when you have a morttage.
I'm just trying to, I don't
no,
want to
You're not responsible.
step off into deep water
Okay,
here,
if
this
you'll
board
step
not
off Your
to.
idea, there's certain thing, such thing as substitutive collateral. All
Okay,
right, we could simply.
I know what you're talking
I
about.
think, and I've done this before, I'm not a lawyer again, but I've done this many times. I am a CPA, so I have knowledge of some law. But in the past, I've used substitutive collateral where you simply just move the mortgage over to another piece of property. In this case, you have a second mortgage, and yes, if if Capital City Bank forecloses and there's no excess monies, the port loses its right anymore. We still owe the money, but the port will have no, quote, collateral. Now, from a banking standpoint, if you have a first mortgage on even $1 million piece of property, you're talking about 20% loan to value ratio. So you're talking about a situation where the port would, if they gave you that first mortgage, I guarantee you would be repaid at some point in time.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we go further down this road, this board lent the Port Authority $199,000. I was here in the audience when this was decided, and I find your position interesting, Commissioner McLemore, because when the chairman at the time, which Mr. Costin was not on the Port Authority at that time, but when the chairman approached the board and asked for the $199 in a very straightforward way, saying that there was no way to make payments, no prospects at the time, and the board discussion was to have staff look at it and come back with some terms, and you made the motion, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's give them the money, and that was your motion. Anytime you take a second position on a property, it's a dangerous position. But you also went ahead and made the motion to bring this board ahead, to give the money to the port without any discussion of what the money was supposed to be used for, and no budget, no terms. That was something to be worked out afterwards. Now, we're talking about looking at another property. We're talking about more legal fees, more issues. Are we going to foreclose on the port if they don't pay us and take the Arizona Chemical site? And yes, you may have some lender liability issues under CERCLA. There's a host of issues that come along with this. We have given this money to the port without any discussion, I don't know what it was used for. I don't know if Mr. Costin knows what it was used for because he wasn't here, but thankfully he's here now. And the Port Authority Board is moving in the right direction, and I think that we need to slow down a little bit and not take these steps without looking at the details, looking at where we're going. Maybe we need a little bit more discussion on it. We can't hold your feet to the fire on a payment on a second mortgage when we have a first ahead of us. So I think we just need to slow down, and we need to work with the port.
Y'all hold up for a minute. Ms. Brown, please continue.
I would like to know if this board, sitting out in the audience, it appeared that there was some type of, if you didn't know any better, you would think that there was some type of planning done ahead of time. And I would like to know, Commissioner McLemore, you were driving the train. I'd like to know if you had some plans or some idea of what that money was to be used for and how this county was going to get that money back. You're sitting here talking about getting the money back to turn it over, but it's an impossibility.
Okay. Mr. Chairman. Okay, let me answer some of your questions. Number one, yes, I did make the motion to support giving them that $200,000. I believed in the port. I believed in them for 10 years. I've supported y'all for 10 years. You know, I believe in giving somebody an opportunity and a chance. That's what I did on this $200,000.
Would you give your $200,000 with no terms?
Ms. Brown, hold up, let him
It's
finish
my
now.
term now. I sit here and not listen to you speak. I didn't interrupt you near time. So this is my opportunity, okay?
Okay.
But it comes a time and a point when you have to pay up or fold up, you know? And this has been over a year now that we give you $200,000 or whatever it is. You know, and I'm to the point, nothing wrong with that, to where, you know, it's no more with me. Mm-hmm. We have other businesses out there that's pushing me, you know, to tap into these funds, so maybe they can get up off of their feet with a project that'll bring jobs in it. So, Ms. Bryant, I don't think there's nothing wrong with what I have done. Nothing.
Yes, hold
I
up.
gave them the benefit of the doubt. I supported the $200,000 when I shouldn't have.
All right, hold up for a minute. I'm back over here to Mr. Mike Daniels.
Yeah, let me finish, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Costin, let's go back,
The substitution mortgage, I think.
Okay, all right, let's just, thank you a minute. Okay, let's say this board takes a first mortgage on this property, and return, we grant you an extension on the 200,000, I'm gonna just use round numbers,
Right,
$200,000 to
sure.
2021.
Yeah.
All right, and I like to stay on the positive side. I don't like to go negative, but sometimes you have to. Let's just say that Capital City Bank forecloses on this. We're sitting here with a first mortgage on the Arizona Chemical property. All right, is there anything in there that Capital City couldn't take us to court and say, look, we had this was already in the works. And now they're in there, more or less, look like they're trying to liquidate all their assets, and they took this Arizona property and shifted it over to the Board of County Commissioners for first mortgage. The judge is liable to step in there and say, wait, no. You were trying to liquidate assets. I mean, I got to look out after these people over here and ask these crazy questions. They are valid.
Well, that certainly is a valid question. As I said, there's a list pendants on the property that's under the Capital City Bank mortgage, but there's not one on the Arizona Chemical property. And to be honest with you, I don't know what all that big word means, but it basically puts them on notice. So I don't know how they would react.
Let me close out here.
I don't know how they react.
Okay.
But I certainly, I don't have a problem personally
Okay.
switching that mortgage over. I mean, that's just, it would certainly guarantee you'd get your money. Now, unfortunately, with Commissioner McLemore, we don't have the money, we can't pay you. I mean, I guess we.
Really, we don't have anything we can foreclose on that.
But we can't.
Your payments will start, I think I'm correct. I'm trying to get.
Next year.
24.
There's an ambiguity in the note,
Yeah.
in the mortgage language.
And you don't have, and we want to get, we're not here to, we want to get this port going. We got to have something going in this county. I made this past week, I went down, took 98, drove all the way to Tampa, just looking went through Charles City, Chiefland, right on down. Everything down there is kind of, booming a little bit. And, the further I get back into here, it slacks off. But, Mr. Carlson, I'm just speaking for myself and only. I'm willing to work with this board here. And, again, we need to think this thing over a little bit, and you need to go back to your board and see what kind of
reaction they have, sure.
Exactly.
Right.
And
I'll certainly bring it up. We have a meeting next week, and I'll certainly bring it up, the fact that you
I'm
may-
willing to work with you anyway to try to.
appreciate it.
You just don't have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
No, matter of fact, we're down to maybe $30,000 in operating money, and I've rustled bushes everywhere, right on from Congressman Southern right on down, trying to get money.
All right, Mr. Yeager.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, number one, Leonard, thank you for coming and giving the updates and all. And I'm more confident today than I've ever been. And the reason being has to do with St. Joe Company changing their philosophies on using that deep water side as the port. So I'm confident that that there's going to be something on that port site that's going to create jobs. I understand all the things that were said today, and I've thought about them all. I understand Mr. McLemore's, it's been a long time, and I sat on that board for a number of different years, and it was a struggle with St. Joe Company at that point with their leadership. Now their leadership has changed, and the philosophy has changed. This is the best opportunity for Gulf County to create jobs and create a number of jobs. I actually worked as a stevedore back in the 80s with when we were loading paper and loading stuff out from Arizona Chemical. So I understand the type of jobs they are, and they're good jobs and they're good paying jobs that this port can create. So I'm in support and will continue to support the port on trying to figure out how do we get to the point that we are absolutely have jobs on the ground, and I'm optimistic. I would also say that many things that were brought up, needs to be with our legal counsel as to how we proceed. I'm, as Commissioner McDaniel, I'm in support of let's work this thing out and move forward. I'm not necessarily opposed to getting a first mortgage on the on the property to guarantee that that money at some point will come back, so we can take that money that was actually EDA money at the time that was originally loaned to Raffles Fisheries. But we can give that money out to other businesses, as Commissioner McLemore says. So I think at some point it would be prudent for us to work with staff, work with our county attorney. This, as Commissioner Bryan has said, is not going to get done today, and it's there's things that we may want to do or we may want to do, but the legal will have to address those issues. So I'm in favor of moving forward with modifying whatever we need to modify to make sure the Port Authority continues on, and we create jobs on that site. And with that, I think the attorney may even have some comments on that. But I'm in support of moving forward.
Before we go to the attorney, I'd like to just comment on the issues here. Commissioner McLemore wanted to help out. This board wanted to help out, but actions have consequences. And this is a perfect example of the consequences that we face when we vote on issues that are not on the agenda, that have not been flushed out, that the staff has not had the ability to work on, and the board votes on them. That being said, moving forward, I want this board to remember that even if Capital City Bank does foreclose on that property, we still have a note. It's an unsecured note, but we do still have a note. There still is an obligation to pay. And I think we need to look long and hard at property that we want to put a mortgage on that may have some other issues that as a lender would tie us in. So what I'm asking two things here. I'm asking for this board to think about the benefits to having a detailed agenda and an agenda policy going forward, and we've had several items, the building up on 71, which we had quite a mess over, this $199,000 that was just given out because you wanted to help out, and I think we need to slow down and work with the port, but I don't think we need to beat up on the port. We need to be thoughtful and careful with the public's money and move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I also want to say that, when that money was given to the port, it wasn't just a thought. I think the Port Authority, and I know that Tommy Pitts is not here, he met with me numerous times. So did Port Authority members individually. That's how you meet and discuss those issues. So I think that they met with every board member at that time that they could get a hold of. I disagree that it was just a lost thought process. There was a thought process going forward, and we all know that the port is the best vehicle to generate jobs in our community. I have calls on a regular basis, and I've said this before, from other counties north of us that are saying, what can we do to help? They want to form a coalition. The crypto folks up in Tallahassee, they want to form a coalition of folks that support this Port Authority because they know the benefits that it'll create for the inland jobs. So it wasn't a fleeting thought. It was a thought process that says this is our best opportunity in our community. And I just think we don't need to go back to criticisms of the past. We need to move forward in the future. And as I've said, we've supported the port, and we'll continue to support that port. And I think we need to continue that dialogue.
And the missing component is the public. And I was in the public, and what it looked like to me was that there was no discussion. There was no discussion of terms. There was no delaying the vote until the terms could be determined. And no one asked the question when the chairman stood at the podium, what is this money to be used for? How is it going to be spent? So I'm not trying to go back and dig up old bones. But what I'm saying is let's learn from our mistakes. Let's do things better. Let's operate in a better fashion as a board. The port aside, as a board, let's operate.
Again, I don't look at it as a mistake. I look at it as a thought process that all of our board members had at that time. The public elects us as the deciders of those issues. Now, they should be involved in as many issues as we can involve them in. They were here at the board meeting. The public could have come to the podium and asked questions also. I mean, it was not a fleeting thought. We shouldn't go back to criticisms. at any point in time, this board probably can make mistakes and do make mistakes on decisions we're made.
But-
But let's move forward and continue the process of trying to get this port going. Let's don't move backwards. Let's continue on. And it was not a fleeting thought.
But the public could not comment. I'd like to answer Commissioner Yeager.
Okay, hold up for a minute. Mr. McDaniels.
Yes. I'll close. Mr. Costin?
Yes, sir.
Questions I asked were not directed directly at you. They were just simply questions that I felt like should be brought up for the people out here. Now, I agree with Commissioner Brian over here. You know, we need to look. If I'm going to jump out of the back of the pickup, I want to know, is it doing 50 miles an hour or is it stopped? And sometimes we jump out when it's doing 50. We get hurt. We get beat up. But anyway, it may come to the point of this. I honestly, in my honest opinion, and by 2021, and that's just a number we've thrown out here, I think we're going to be well underway over there.
Absolutely.
Well underway, and we went too far to back up on this thing. Yes, the 200,000, it was loaned in good faith, and I think the port will come through. I honestly do. But we just a little community, and this county is in some economic
May I offer a
problems, having some
suggestion? Then?
Very.
Oh, excuse me.
Go ahead. That's
Well,
all. Thank you. And that's all. for me
Those are
too,
good
Mr. Chairman.
points. I think that we have a meeting next week with the port commissioners. I would like to discuss it with them and see what their feeling is, and perhaps maybe I could get them with the county attorney and work something up. You know, this note is not, this $10,000 payment, I don't think it's due now. There was ambiguity.
It's a year old.
Oh, it's, okay, we weren't sure about that. So I don't like to come to you the day it happens, say, I want, you know, hat in hand, I want this, you know, I can't do this, but so I'm trying to come to you in advance. So, if you would allow
Sure.
me to talk with them, and I'd be glad to come back to the board,
All right.
and perhaps we can work.
This
something
first mortgage I talked about.
Yeah.
It may not be worth going after that. It may be better to just, give an extension. I don't know. That's the reason, like Commissioner Bryan over here, we need to
Sure. Well,
take
your first-
time to think about this. We can't react on this in short order and get out here and talk to some of the people in the audience and get some feelings on this thing. But
Well,
you may be able to pay us before 2021.
Oh,
We
well-
might have half our money back.
Sure, well, let me explain this to you. I fully, as long as I'm on the commission, certainly, at the moment we get the money to pay back, we're not gonna wait till 2021.
Oh.
If I have the vote, my vote would be to pay back as soon as possible. It's just, we're just talking about breathing room here, you know, a little wiggle room, so to speak. And, it doesn't have to go to 2021, but we can work those
Okay.
details out, and I appreciate your comments, so.
All right. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to address the issue that Commissioner Yeager raised. The point is, the public could not comment because they had no notice that it was going to be addressed. And I think that you must agree that we want transparency and accountability with the public. We want them to know what we're doing. We are elected by the public, but they want to be able to see what we are doing as their elected officials. We work for them.
I agree with you 100%. But when you talk about agenda items, when this board voted to give $80,000 to the EDA, it wasn't an agenda item. You made that motion and you pushed that issue, and that's fine. I don't have a big issue with that. There needs to be transparency. I agree with you. There needs to be accountability. I agree with you. But at the end of the day, you know, we worked hard with the port and have worked with the port and will continue to work with the port, this board has. And you know, I think we've beat this issue to death. I think you've got a consensus up here on the board that we want to work with the Port Authority. And I think you made a good suggestion that you go back to your board and you know, give them our comments and work with our staff and work something out.
Well, I appreciate it, Commissioner Yeager, and I want to say, as you did, up until the time that St. Joe came on board as a strategic partner, we were just lost. I mean, that's all I can say. We were lost. The reality is they're on board now, and this is one of their number one priorities, and it's right up there with the development of other projects. So I really and honestly believe that we're going to see development of this port, and it's going to come fast and furious when it starts coming. So, and I'm gonna do everything I can. I've spent way too much of my time on it volunteering, but I'm gonna stay there and fight as long as I can. And I appreciate what you commissioners, you know, bet against today. It need to be vetted, and I will certainly take it back to my board and talk to him.
Just
Sorry,
one,
go ahead.
one comment. Again, I'm gonna go back and thank you for coming today with us, but the payment, the $10,000 payment, that is due in 1 year?
1
Is
year,
that-
roughly.
Why are you up here today asking us to revise that for $10,000? There's a lot that can happen in 10
Well,
years,
I agree.
in a year.
There is a lot that can
You know,
happen.
so we don't need to jump in here today.
Yeah.
We have time.
Well, I agree, and to answer your question, there's an ambiguity in the way it was written, whether it was due now or due a year from now. And I didn't want that to happen and, just technically overdue if it was due now. And so I'm here today, I like the banker. Do you want to go to the banker today and know it's due and say, I can't pay it and I need some help? Or do you want to give me
But my situation a year from now,
Yeah.
you know, if I see things moving
Mhm.
with the port and things going on, I may have a change of heart. I might consider it to be a lot easier for me to support
Right,
you.
okay.
But today, I can't do it.
Sure. Well, that being said, maybe you want to just postpone it till a later date.
But Mr. Carlson?
Yes, sir.
When we took that vote to give up the, $199,000, I was one of the votes to give it to you guys. Well, I was up under the impression, we're not up under no impression, St. Joe need jobs.
Right.
We all know that the port is one of our key, to bring in some jobs in St. Joe. Then, I didn't see no one really working on it as hard as I see working on it right now. I see lots of guys working on it. We having meetings, you calling people's in. I truly feel like something is bound to happen. I understand that you were here a year early, just letting us know that right now you don't have the money. And we appreciate you coming before us. I'm in support of the port. I want to see jobs here. Because like I said, I come up in the era of St. Joe when we had jobs. And I'm working as hard as I can, talking to as many as I can, writing as many letters as I can to people, trying to do whatever we could do to bring jobs into this area. So I just appreciate you working as hard as you've been working on it. I appreciate the board working as hard as they're working on it. And I ask that you guys continue to work hard on it. Because I truly feel like something is going to break.
Thank you.
And if we continue to work on it, guys, we gave them $199,000. We knew when we gave them $199,000 that it wasn't enough to do what they needed to do. We knew that. But we was hoping for jobs. Everybody on this board was hoping for jobs. I don't feel like we rushed to do the thing, to do nothing wrong. I feel like we did what we thought was right. And that's what the public put us up here for, to make those decisions. We made that decision. We still working on it. And I'm still in support of you to try to push it on. Right now, you got a lots of bumps in the road ahead of you. But I really believe where there's a will, there's a way. And I see you working on it hard. I see the guys around you working on it hard. The guys here, Mr. Butler, the attorney, they all working with us hard on trying to bring things here. Something gonna give. So right now we just got to keep working.
Appreciate that.
We can't stop working. We got to keep working. Ain't no need to stopping now. I don't believe in giving up on something. Right now we got people right here hurting because, they're making $250 a week. And they come back telling me, well, Tan, I had to put all my money on one bill. I can't make it. Water bill. That's another subject. We'll talk about that one later. But what I'm saying, we just got to continue working on it. We can't give up.
Right.
We can't give up. And I'm right there with you. I'm going to work just as hard. I don't believe in giving up. I believe in continue pushing.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. All of you, if you have any more questions, I'd be glad to answer them, or you can call me anytime. With what we've discussed today, I will certainly talk to my board about it and talk to them about the first mortgage and talk about a solution. And we do have time, and we do have Commissioner McLemore. And I hope in my heart that when we come around next time, I come here and say, "Here's your money." And that could be the case. A year's a long time, but.
But Mr. Linda, if
yes,
you
sir.
ever need me to go with you somewhere to a meeting or whatever, or you need one of these board members to go, let us know, because, we trying to work on it as hard as we can work. I want the people to know that we're really working on this.
Right.
And I done learned something. When you up working and you working hard, you gonna make mistakes. Most people who make mistakes is those that work hard. Most of the people who just sit there and don't do nothing, they don't make mistakes. So you continue to work hard, and we're going to try to make something happen, because you have lots of people hoping and depending that something come through.
Well, I appreciate it so much, and I want to say this, Commissioner McLemore. I had twofold reason today. One was to bring you update of where we are. Again, I feel optimistic, and things are going to happen, and I hope I'll be back next time just trying to figure out a way to make, to bring this company in or provide them services they need. But thank you so much. Have any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Our public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, May 20th, the Planning Board met with regards to 3 applications. The first was a variance from Ms. Terry Caldwell, with regards to a 10-foot, .7 setback along the CCL. After presentation and the recommendation, the PDRB voted unanimously to recommend that you provide that variance into the road setback due to the coastal construction line. It was a vote 3-0.
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Mike Daniels.
Second?
Got a second by Ms. Bryant. Any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
The second variance request on May 20th before the PDRB was a Trenton Marlin Van Dyke with regards to a road setback encroachment and southern property setback. Again, after a presentation, it was a recommendation that the PDRB recommend to you as a commission to approve that variance request for that setback, and it was a unanimous vote of 3-0.
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Mike Daniels.
Second?
Second by Ms. Bryant. Do I have any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
The third was with regards to a small-scale land use amendment. It was on behalf of the property owner, Ms. Wanda Brown Davis. Her son appeared before the planning board last week. It was with regards to changing approximately 1.2 acres in White City from residential to mixed commercial residential. And he had made a presentation of request to the planning board, and the planning board, after discussion and inquiries of Mr. Davis, there was a recommendation of a 3-0 to approve that land use amendment from residential to mixed-use commercial residential.
That's in White City?
Yes, sir.
So move.
Got a motion by Mr. Mike Daniels.
Second?
Second by Ms. Bryant. Do I have any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Smiley, the third land use amendment, that will now go to an ordinance. We'll advertise that. It'll come back before you all for a public hearing, and in June, we'll adopt that land use amendment through ordinance form.
Anything else?
That's all for this.
Ms. Sherry? Lynn?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of items. The first, for the board's information as well as county employees, we received late last week a change on our dental insurance, and just to let everyone know that has the county's dental insurance, everyone will be receiving a new dental card, and this is just for changes to their collections process. There's new toll-free numbers and new ways that they process these cards. So each employee will be getting a new dental card. There's no changes in the providers or the service. It's just simply their administrative changes. Had calls on that so far, so I just wanted to make everyone aware of that. The next item I have for the board's consideration, I received this morning, and each of you have a copy of a resignation or a cancellation, resignation of the park cleanup contract. The vendors, contractor said that they can no longer provide this service. So I just need the board's guidance. During the bid process, we had 5 bidders. We had 2 low bidders that bid the same amount. So we do have one other bidder in that contract that bid the same amount as the current contractor that is resigning. So for the board's consideration, we could go to that second bidder, or we could go to any of the other 3 bidders other than that one, or rebid the contract at the board's leisure.
I'd motion,
Any comments from the board?
I just go ahead and make a motion that we go ahead and go to the next bidder. That was an even bid between the two? if I
Yes, sir.
remember.
They both bid $350 per week.
I'll second that. We don't need any, this time of year, we don't
Right.
need any delay in cleaning the parks on the weekend.
So I got a motion by Mr. Michael Moore, second by Mr. Yeager. Do I have any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing on that issue, if you'll read that letter, it talks about household garbage and we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. At some point now, we're gonna have to make a decision. Maybe budget time is the time to make that decision, but we need to have a soft landing on this mandatory garbage pickup. I know there's commissioners in different districts that have issues with elderly and all those kinds of things that can be worked out, I believe. We have a representative from Waste Management here that they do mandatory in a lot of different counties. So I think at some point, we're going to have to either workshop it or do something, but we need to make a decision on this going forward.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just comment on your motion you just took as well, and I'm just reading this. Under the contract, there's a termination clause on both the county and the contractor. I just want to bring it to the commission's attention as we gear up and explore engaging the other vendor. There's still an obligation to this vendor, and I think it's a 60-day provision in the contracts that we have with our contractors. I understand that they said that they'll not go forward, but I just want to request your ability to not only engage this vendor and work with them so there's a smooth transition, because, like I said, the holiday weekend's passed. Your highest volume of trash is at the parks now, so there's still an obligation to this contractor until we can get the other one up and running. And like I said, I don't know what notice we can provide to the other contractor to make sure they can get the equipment, the vehicles, the trailers. There may be a week or two transition. There is a 60-day obligation of the contract, so I'll work with the new contractor.
There is also a instance that other contractor may not be willing to
Correct.
fulfill the contract either, since they didn't get the original bid, so I'll have to contact them to make sure that they want to do that.
I think the problem we're going to run into here is we're not going to have anybody to clean our parks. Wow.
I believe the letter stated that the withdrawal is to begin immediately upon the county reassigning another contractor, so I believe that the current vendor is going to continue the cleanup until we notify them that we have secured the new contractor.
As a last resort, and Mr. McLemore, you probably know more about this than I do, but during the week, our inmate work crews clean all our parks, and I don't know at the end of the day if we can work with the inmate work crews and work with Department of Corrections on maybe supplying one or two during the weekend that we can do some work. But I guess the problem with that is they can't be around children, and a lot of times there's children in those parks, so that's probably a last resort, but
That won't work.
Ma'am,
That's all I have.
Ms. Jennifer. Mr. Houston.
I want to ask you permission to pursue a contract with Sacred Heart Hospital on our transports that we're doing from the hospital to other hospitals. We have a contract now between inpatient people being transported from Sacred Heart Hospital to one of the other hospitals. We do a lot of transports on patients been released from Sacred Heart Hospital and transported to Bay County, either the Gulf Coast or Bay Medical Center. We run a tally on this, and we had 166 calls in a 6-month period, and that was 2 months prior to now. So we had time to see what the payout was going to be in it. We billed $192,800 something dollars. So far, we've collected $80,700 something. And 2 months out, that's pretty well what the payer mix is going to pay, because Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance is discount right to start with before we ever get into the paying session. I met with Mr. Hall and the CEO of the hospital, and we're talking about having a charge per run placed on anything we transport out in those conditions. This fee roughly is going to be between $300 to $400. By doing that, we're going to be able to pull in our space in between there, where we're going to be coming out a little bit ahead. So it's a win deal for us. Sacred Heart just pays on what they transport out. We just bill them once a month on the runs we actually made. And just asking your permission to pursue this contract and then bring it back to you for approval.
Chairman, EMS. Mr. Whitfield, what you're trying to do, say, establish a flat rate from $300 to $400 with Sacred Heart, and that's on our transports from
Sacred
Heart, Port St. Joe
to Bay County.
All right, and that's the ones that
possibly
you
we
run up
might-
to 166 runs.
Right, we had that in a 6
Now-
month period.
What if this board decides and everything can be worked out with this flat rate agreement, now, we will still retain any
We were still
monetary
retaining billing, yeah.
amounts that we get out of Medicaid, Medicare, or off of insurance. Is
And
that
private-
correct?
And private pay.
And private pay.
Yeah.
So they're just subsidizing 166 calls, what'd you say, in 6 months?
Yeah.
6 months, a lot of car. That's a lot of transports. We're probably keeping one vehicle primarily tied up, just transporting.
Well, it's averaging 27.8 calls per month.
So one a
So
day,
we averaging one a day.
one a day.
Basically, yeah,
One of our ambulances is leaving.
right.
Okay.
Chairman, speaking to that, are these non-emergency transports?
No. These are
They're not.
transports that the hospital, the patient's care needs are beyond what the hospital can do.
Okay, so it's required that it be
Right.
transported by
Right.
ambulance, okay.
Do you need a motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I did have a chance to speak with Houston last week, and I also spoke with Mr. Roger Hall. If we can have a permission of the commission to explore entering a contract, and then we'll come back. Once we finalize those terms, we'll present it to the commission for you all to review it after I go through Karen Emanuel with Sacred Heart, and we finalize those details. But I would like permission to move forward with that.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Mr. Yeager,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Bryant. Do I have any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
One other question, Ms. Whitfield. We negotiated a contract with, just to report to the people here, with Bay County for Mexico Beach. How we stand on that? Are we in the, are we breaking even?
We're coming out ahead on that now.
We're ahead of the game, so we're in the black
Right.
as far as Mexico Beach.
Right.
With Bay County subsidizing us $3,000 per month, plus what we can get off of insurance or Medicare, Medicaid,
Right.
or private pay. All right, so that wasn't a bad
Nope,
deal
it turned out
there.
good.
I think it's a good deal for us, a good deal for Bay too.
Yeah, it's saving them quite a bit of money.
I have a question also. We had discussed a couple months back about this collection service where the EMS runs, and are we in the process of using that now? Is it in place, and how are we doing on?
Harv Platic had provided us a preliminary form contract last week that they've used in other counties that have already been adopted, and I received that in the final stages of finalizing our county response to it. And I had mentioned to Brett and to Harv that we'll probably have something to them on Wednesday or Thursday this week. I think the initial request was 1,000 units, if I recall. So we'll hopefully have that ratified in the next week or so.
Right. Any more questions?
Ms. Brett, you have anything?
I don't.
Mr. Joe? David?
Mr. Chairman, if I may put on my fire hat, the county is starting to dry out a little bit, so encourage all our residents to be careful in their outdoor recreational fires and burning. It's starting to climb pretty fast. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Michael?
Commissioners, what you have in front of you with regards to the instructions we received at our last meeting, discussion by Commissioner Yeager, Going back to March 27th, if you all recall, we received a letter from the City of Port St. Joe with regards to an interlocal agreement. We've had discussions about the relocation of some of the agencies that are currently in the Welcome Center. On your first meeting in April, you had instructed me to send a letter to the city respectfully requesting that we separate the two issues. Since that time, on April 10th, we don't have a formal response, but the issues have not moved forward. And at your last meeting, if you recall, Commissioner Yeager requested the ability to work with Mr. Butler and myself in starting to address the interlocal agreement and trying to move both the issues forward with regards to the Welcome Center as well as the interlocal. In front of each of you is a proposed response to the city that I've discussed with each of you individually. Behind that is a summary of the 15 bullet points of the interlocal agreement. Third item, tabbed yellow, is the original interlocal agreement going back to 2005 with the City of Port St. Joe. And then the final document that's tabbed in the blue is the proposed interlocal amended agreement from the City of Port St. Joe that was sent on March 27th. Before we move forward with regarding a response to the city, I've request that we go through, we need action of this commission as a body. We can't have one individual commissioner's response, and you all may have varied opinions or with regards to your response to each of the 15 issues. First and foremost, I'd ask that we can explore these issues per Commissioner Yeager's request at our last meeting, and if so, then I'd recommend that we go through each item and discuss what you'd like the response to be. As you've all seen, the proposed draft of the response is on the first 2 pages, but until that is ratified by this commission, we do not want to execute that and send that to the city commissioners, the mayor, and the city attorney. So, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Yeager, if there's no questions with regards to the presentation in front of each of you, then I'd direct your attention to the 3rd page in the summaries, which basically summarizes the first 2 pages of the letter. We can go through issue by issue if there's no objection to that.
I think, Mr. Attorney, it's appropriate to go through issue by issue. I think probably most of the commissioners have seen those issues. They may have relayed those concerns if they had any to you, but however, for the public and for the board, I do think we need to go through those issues before we ratify this letter. Make everybody comfortable with it.
Just, and if I can add to that, Commissioner Yeager, one of the comments from the commission pretty much across the board after I spoke with Commissioner Yeager was there's a sincere effort of this commission that you all want to discuss this with the city commission further. So there can be letters that go back and forth. There can be discussions amongst the staff, but ultimately it'll be the 10 of you all that decide this. If there is an amendment to it, if there's additional provisions added on other issues. So you'll see in the opening comments, and I just wanted to emphasize that this isn't the end-all to be-all, and I think each one of you commissioners have expressed an openness to set a joint meeting with the city so that you all could discuss each of the issues in an open dialogue in the public, and then you all could ultimately vote to ratify an amended interlocal. So, and that's expressed in the letter as well. So, but if there's no objections, we can go to the first issue in the interlocal and then just go down from there. And either Mr. Chairman or Commissioner Yeager, if you wish to, we can recite the actual provisions if you thought that'd be beneficial, or I can read the summaries.
I think the summaries will be fine.
Okay. The first one's with regards to the city providing sewer service to the developed areas of White City and Highland View within 1 year of the receipt of permitting. There's been considerable discussion. I know that Administrator Mr. Butler has a wealth of knowledge and history on this as well. But like I said, with regards to number 1, if there's a discussion there amongst you all as to whether or not there's a necessity for that moving forward, there's been a request, obviously, in the amendment provided by the city that that's no longer in there. I don't want to paraphrase or summarize their position, but presumably they've taken it out because that's no longer a requirement that's been satisfied.
I think it's just to be noted that they have performed on that issue, so it's no reason for it to be in there.
Wait, you go ahead, Chairman. Ms. Bryan, now the chairman.
I'd like to state that my overall position before we go through all of these, and I understand going through them, but my overall position is that I would prefer to address the fire tax issue, which clearly is an issue for the city, and even if these items are complete, that we leave them in place. if we are going to take them out of the interlocal agreement, I think that we need some type of a written document from staff that states that these items are complete and that they would not come up again in the future. If we can look into the future and know that this is something that will not come up, that will not be a need, that the folks living in these communities will not need these promises that have been made, then I can back pulling them out of the agreement. But I still feel that if it is completed, there's really no need to pull it out of the agreement. And typically, when you have an agreement in place, as you complete the items, you don't go in and revise and take out the things that are completed. They're just completed. So I'm all for discussing the fire tax issue and some of the issues that you addressed in your letter, Mr. Novak. But I would just like to ask the board to consider that as we go through these items, even if we think today that it may be done, unless we can get some type of certification from staff that it is definitely completed, then I would like to see them stay in place.
I think that probably Mr. Butler could answer most of those questions today. As we go through them, he can tell you which ones have been completed and confirmed.
And again, I'd like to get it, if we do move forward in that direction, I would like to have it in writing, in the record, so as we move years down the road, that those things were looked at and addressed, and that we didn't just decide to let them go.
I have a concern. Let's just take the first one. The city provides sewer service to White City and Highland View. Let's say they're in, let's say 25 new homes come online out there. What's to keep the city from saying, well, you didn't fall under this interlocal, this, you made the decision, to close this out, so you fall under a total different category. And these are just some things you need to look at. Do we stop it? Does it stop today or a certain date? Or if we have expansion in Highland View, will the people all under this same? It says right here, city to provide sewer service to the city of, as long as it's in here, I think we're all right. But if we take it out, that's just a question. It'll be up to this board what they do, but I don't want to see any future growth in the White City or anywhere in the county be penalized on this.
Okay. Commissioners, my comment would be like with number one, let me back up. If there was not anything to be added to this interlocal agreement, I would agree with Commissioner Bryan that leave it like it is. We are planning to add some things to the agreement that would benefit the city and the county, and that would be the reason I would say you could take it out. Number one coming out, city to provide sewer service to develop areas of White City and Highland View within 1 year of permitted. That was done. Everyone in Highland View and White City that wanted to get on sewer got on sewer. Now, even with this in place or not in place, if someone went out and extended, put a new subdivision adjacent to either one of these two communities, the city's going to be involved. And they're either going to say, we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. And they may have capacity, they may not have capacity to handle it. That's got to be handled during the process, the planning process. I think, with that said, number 15, we intend that to be left in. And 15 would be a catch-all. Any new subdivision or any extension of existing subdivision that's placed in White City, Highland View, and in the case of water in Overstreet, the rates charged to those out of city residents will be the same as inside the city. So with number 15 left in place, we don't see two different charges outside the city. It's going to stay the same. So I think number one has been fulfilled. Everyone want to get on water and sewer, got on water and sewer. If the infrastructure's in place and new people want to tap on in between existing taps, that's already in place. They pay the same rate they do in the city of Port St. Joe. So on one hand, could you leave it in there? You could. And if you were simply just taking the things out and not adding anything back to it, I would say not do it. But since we are adding some items, I I don't see the harm in taking it out.
Okay. Question here. Being that you mentioned 15, cities assume all county water system, city and county rates. They're two different rates.
Same rate.
Just a question.
Commissioners, also, if on the blue tab, which is the city's proposed interlocal agreement or amendment, I just direct all your attention to paragraph 1 from the city. And I'm going to read it for each of you. The interlocal agreement described above is void and of no further effect as a result of the completion or waiver of the obligations and agreements contained therein. That's their March 27th proposition to you all. So what they're proposing is that, as Commissioner Bryan just commented, that the items that have been completed be removed in a new amended interlocal agreement. So the first paragraph of their interlocal agreement, they're proposing that those things be removed. And so as we go forward and as you all vote on each of these issues, you can discuss whether or not you leave them in or take them out. But I wanted you to start as a baseline to understand where the city is with regards to your interlocal from 8 years ago.
Well, and I'm uncomfortable with that provision in that amendment in and of itself. You don't amend an agreement by saying the entire thing is void, and then move forward. Then you would just enter into a new agreement. If that agreement was void, you wouldn't amend a voided agreement. So this makes no sense to me
And
from a
that's-
legal perspective.
Yeah, and that's why we haven't responded with a proposed amendment to an interlocal. What we're doing right now is engaging in a dialogue. We can give them a proposed response in letter form. You all decide that's appropriate today, or you may not want to authorize me to send that response and then have a dialogue with them where you all 10 get together. I mean, it would certainly be up to the to you all to vote.
And I'm
That's
not
good.
trying to dig heels in and not work with them, but I think we need to do this in the simplest fashion possible. Now, the city may feel that the simplest fashion is to void the agreement and just put a couple of provisions in place. But what I see as a simple way to do it is to address the issues that the city is claiming to be the issues that are at hand, that being the fire tax. That seems to be the sticking point. And I think we address that fire tax, we do an amendment addressing the fire tax, and maybe we could talk about what we are adding in and see if we need to go back and look at these other items. Because again, I think we get into dangerous territory when we start removing things that are completed. I don't see a need for it. It's extra legal work. It's just not necessary to, if it's completed, the city's under no more obligation. They don't need to be told that it's completed. So I again would like to see these items stay.
You know, before we go through, because this is a long, arduous process, and before we go through this process, if the board would like, we need to hear from the board before we go through this and even send this letter. You know, we had mentioned in the letter, I think, of a workshop. And I think if the board would like, if we could do a joint workshop to work on these issues, see if we can't come to a conclusion there. My purpose of going through this process is we had gotten a letter a couple of months ago or a month ago from the city in response. We need to formalize a response to that, and the response may just be, hey, let's workshop it. And if that's what this board would like to do before we go through all these items, let's just workshop it and see if we can't work through the items, because there are some items in there that are beneficial to the county. There's some items in there that are beneficial to the city. And I'll say about this interlocal, you know, I know there was a lot of folks involved, but the interlocal was put in place at a different time in this county. And I think we do need to address it. We do need to at least have a workshop. We need to discuss what the city needs, what the county needs out of that, and go forward with that. But if the board would like to, we can just request a workshop instead of going through all these items.
And I agree with Commissioner Yeager, and this agreement was put in place in a different time. Clearly, times are very different today than they were at that time. But in 3, 5, 10 years, we're going to have different times again. And we need to make sure that anything that we secured as a right to an individual living in Gulf County, that we maintain that right. And I think that to let them go, they're gone. Once they're gone, they're gone. There's a reason for this. It was a big deal when they annexed Windmark into the city, and I think that it may be more appropriate for a workshop. I understand there was some workshops that took place between the city and the county on this agreement prior to me being on this board, so I can't speak to that, but I do think it rises to that level. In the meantime, at the last city commission meeting, apparently the mayor made it clear that the relocation of the redevelopment agency was not tied in with the interlocal agreement. So I do think that as a board, that we should address the issue that, and that might be at a workshop, that the city has with the fire tax, and it's an important issue to the city, so we need to agree to work with them on that. But we need to get the redevelopment agency moved. That's what's best for the city, the county. They're paying double for rent to hold a space that they need to move into, and that only makes sense. So, Mr. Novak, if that means you reaching out to Mr. Gibson and asking them to go ahead and allow the move, and we'll pay for the move as we agreed, and we will address the issues with the interlocal agreement.
Mr. Chairman, just looking here briefly, and then we got to move on here. I agree that some of these things, let me just I'll use two, for instance. It says right here, the city of Port St. Joe shall extend sewer trunk line to Gulf Bay County line. Has that been done?
Commissioner, that's been run to the Beacon Hill Park area, the location that our engineers say is the best place for a lift station. We didn't need to run it to the Bay County line because that's not the best location for a lift station. So it has been run as far as it needs to be run.
It hadn't been to the Gulf Bay County line.
No, that was in the agreement, but engineering-wise, that's not the best location. So they run it as far as they need to run it. Now the piece we need now is the laterals from all the houses in Beacon Hill.
All right, let's just drop down to another one. The city, we're talking Port St. Joe, shall provide $350,000 for the Honeyville Community Center.
Yes,
Have they done that?
that's been done.
All right, and they're not responsible for any additions or improvements or this, that. So they've done that. They've held up their end of that. So there's one right there. You could just, get rid of it. It's been completed, which they have.
I know under commission want to move on through this, but if I could, let me hit these and just give a moment each one of these points. Number two, we recommend it remain in the agreement, or if it winds up in a new agreement, we keep the same language. City shall not change the elements of existing DRI development order. And the reason we put it in there because Gulf County has low-rise, low-density areas, and we want to keep Windmark low-rise, low-density area. City of Port St. Joe has regulation on the books now that allow buildings to be as tall as 60 feet tall, and it was the county's thought that we didn't want to see Windmark go in and not look like the rest of Gulf County, and that's the reason we recommend it stay. Future annex area number 3 will retain county land classification to be removed. That was in our agreement, but as always, if the city annexes a piece of land, it'll keep the same land use classification until DCA or the DEO says they can change it. So it's really no harm to remove that. Number 4, we recommend it remain in. City and county shall plan future annexation through workshops. The issue at hand at that point in time was there was desire by the city to annex land along Highway 98, right on Highway 98 in Highland View, but no further inland than that point. And if the city were to annex those lands on Highway 98 in Highland View and allow structures to be built, lot line to lot line, which is different than what the county allows, and tall, the people in Highland View would not be able to see the water or not be able to see the bay if that were to happen. So that's the reason that we need to start off with. And all we're saying here, we need workshops. If there's going to be future annexations around existing communities, let's workshop it and try to work it out so it doesn't harm people in those existing communities. Number 5, city shall extend sewer truck line to Bay County line. It's already run as far as the engineers say we need to run it. So it's done. Number 6, city to furnish water service to Overstreet area. That's been completed. Number 7, city and county to match sports complex, $600,000 contribution. And in the interlocal agreement, the agreement said the city will match up to $600,000 of a county contribution towards the sports complex that was intended to be built just south of the city of Port St. Joe. There was no obligation on the county's part at all. There was an obligation on the city's part to match our contribution. So both sides, city and county, have agreed to back out of that and not put any money into it. Number 8, city shall pay St. Joe Fire Control District the equivalent of 1/2 mil fire tax levy, and that's been doing. The city's been making that payment every year to us. This recommend that to be removed because we're doing some horse trading on that and the TDC building site. The number 9, city shall pledge 1/2 cent small county sales tax to Sacred Heart. We have other agreements to have that in there already, so it doesn't hurt to take it out of this agreement, or at least not put it into a new agreement, because the city of St. Joe collects a 1/2 cent sales tax like the county does, and that 1/2 cent sales tax goes towards the indigent care for the hospital. Number 10, city shall provide $350,000 Hunterville Community Center. That's already been done. Number 11, city shall match county with a maximum $20,000 annual contribution for chamber and EDC. We're saying remove. Don't think the city has matched the county's contribution in past years, and could be a point of contention, but it's not a big money item either. Number 12, we recommend this to remain in. Cities shall waive water and sewer tap fees and impact fees for future affordable housing areas until after first sales transaction on each unit. And this would assist affordable housing if there was an affordable housing complex, whether it be apartment buildings or an area of affordable housing, that the city would waive those water and tap fees until the first sale was made. And it gives them a little bit of time to get the water and sewer in place and not have to worry about paying for that up front for the affordable housing. Number 13, city to provide water rescue services for windmark coastal areas. City hasn't ever done that since we had this interlocal agreement. And typically the South Gulf County Volunteer Fire Department handles that in the south part of the county. St. Joe Beach Fire Department handles it in the west part of the county. The beach area is not in the city of Port St. Joe. That was excluded. The city limit line doesn't go all the way to the water's edge. That's unincorporated. So recommend that be removed.
In mentioning that, Don, also we put in the letter that in the event that protect the Windmark residents, in the event that Windmark is built out to 65%, I believe was the number. In the event it was built out to 65%, that they would provide those services for the benefit of.
Is that in the DRI? About for the water rescue services?
Only in a local agreement.
Not in the DRI.
Number 14, county roads newly annexed shall remain county roads unless relinquished. Recommend to remove that. The point of contention at the point in time was the area west side of Highland View, Butler Bay Road. There was appeared to be a desire by some to turn that roadway over to developers and take it out of the county's hands. And our concern was a lot of people use that road. They go out to the bridge and get to the bay. That's the public access to the bay, and we didn't want to lose that public access. So that's the reason that went in to start with. But for in the future, I can't think of another road that provides public access to rivers and bays in Gulf of Mexico. So if you take it out, it's not a big harm. Number 15, I recommend to remain in. City to assume all water systems, city and county rates shall remain the same. And that's the synopsis of number 15, which really is very important to Gulf County, that we don't need to change that. As new extension system and new subdivision go out into the county, county residents and everybody is paying pretty good fee now for water, enormous fee for water and sewer, and we don't want to have that number go up. And as long as it's the same as the city of Port St. Joe residents are paying, we can't holler too much about it. But short version of 15 units, 15 items.
One question, Mr. Butler, on the, if we took that out on our roads, would it still be protected for the public? For the roads? I don't want to go in there and close, and let anybody close any roads off, is my point. If you took it out, it's not protected.
I think it's going to be, that's a legal question that Mr. Attorney will have to answer. Really and truly, if the city were to annex lands like they did like recently here in Oak Grove, along Highway 98 in Oak Grove, and those county roads, now those roads are in the city, could the city go in and close those roads? That's a legal question. I'm not sure.
I want to be very careful with this issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I just want to offer additional comments, because what you all have in front of you, we've just summarized the 15 points. There's a couple other issues as well in that proposed response to the city, which was one, they were coming back about some of the obligations financially that you had as a county. In that letter, you've offered tentatively to pay the relocation costs that we discussed and Commissioner Bryan just mentioned. In addition to that, there's proposition that as we eliminate that fire tax obligation, that the city of Port St. Joe takes over the Oak Grove as a primary fire and emergency response, and that would be the unincorporated areas of Oak Grove adjacent to the city, that they would take over those fire responsibilities and duties. And then also with regards to the comments that the commission have made with regards to the Welcome Center, there's a discussion at the last commission meeting about the future of the Welcome Center and how it got to where it was historically. I've had an opportunity to go back and look at how the county inherited that facility, and then the money that was allocated and spent through the TDC and the county over a 2-year period to relocate, refurbish, and bring it to the current facility that it is today. But there's a proposition in here from the county to the city that those lands on which the Welcome Center currently sits at 150 Captain Fred's Place be conveyed over to the county going forward as a fee simple conveyance. So those are some of the other stipulations that are not in the interlocal, but requests of the county that we would go forward and hopefully discuss in a workshop or a joint session with the city commissioners. So there's definitely some additional dialogue there as well.
And just a further comment, if the board's not comfortable with the letter that they've been provided, and I think you've had it for a few days, but if you're not comfortable with that, then let's workshop it and move forward. I'm for either way. It doesn't matter to me, but I do want, let's move forward and at least have some dialogue with the city. Yeah, if the board's not comfortable with that letter, I'll say that we'll, Mr. Attorney, you got.
I was just going to add something, Commissioner Yeager, is time is of the essence, and we have an issue here that's been driving this, which is the relocation of one of the agencies, the TDC, downtown redevelopment. If we can add to that, that I can go forward and ask, again, the city, we asked on April 10th to separate the issues so that we can let that other issue move forward. And time is of the essence. I'm not sure the stipulations or the contractual obligations of the PSJRA, but they do have some obligations, I believe, with regards to their new location. And so if we can include in that we go to the city and ask them to facilitate that and move that forward. Like I said, I don't know when you're going to get the workshop together in the next week or 2 weeks. But that other issue is time sensitive.
I'll make the motion that we proceed with a workshop, and we also include in the county attorney's comments on the redevelopment agency, because that is time sensitive.
Got a motion by Mr. Yeager,
Second.
second by Ms. Bryant. Do I have any opposed? Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The next issue I have is with regards to the conservation plan. Commissioner Yeager had discussed at our last meeting the status of our habitat conservation plan. Going back to last summer, Administrator Butler, Commissioner Yeager, and myself had an opportunity to go over to Panama and meet with some of the Florida Fish and Wildlife and further discuss in their field office the HCP. Since that time, we've done an attorney review on the proposed contract for the funding of that habitat conservation plan. And most recently, 2 weeks ago, Commissioner Yeager had offered some comments with regards to moving that forward. Since that time, Tom Ostertag and their field office has provided us some additional comments on the in-kind contributions and the match. And if I can, I'd like to read that just to the commissioners so you all understand their further obligations and commitment to the county should you consider to go forward on it. I would like to reiterate the points made at our June 5th meeting at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services Field Office. The required match to support the grant can come in form of a variety of in-kind services. These include the amortized costs of any county equipment, GIS data, or county facilities used to develop the HCP that were not procured with federal funds, and the cost of staff time, including salaries and benefits compensation, as well as the time of any stakeholders who participate in the process. In calculating the cost of facilities and volunteer contributions, the county may estimate the costs based on the market rate for procuring said services. I believe meeting the original match requirements outlined in the awarded grant are realistic and attainable, but I do understand the county's reticence to the current economic climate. Rest assured, the FWC will work with you continuously to help ensure that you are able to find mechanisms within your existing financial framework to fulfill your grant obligations. Going back to those meetings that Mr. Butler, Mr. Yeager, and myself had, there were verbal representations that the county would be able to meet those. The contract that we received had specific terms that the county would have an obligation of anywhere between $75,000 and $90,000 on this habitat conservation plan. Going forward, the county couldn't make those commitments because there aren't the funds to do that. Since that, we've had dialogue from Ms. Christy Yankis, who's taken over for Kat Dearson, and also received this letter from Tom Ostertag. So with the ability to go forward, we've already done the attorney review. All the other variations in the contract and the language have all been agreed to between the parties. The only sticking point has been this obligation of the county for an in-kind or a contribution towards the total habitat conservation plan. There's additional comments that they offered on the second page with regards to some of the forfeitures. They're legal issues, but the county potentially could lose some of its permitting ability and its future grant award of grant funds to the Fish and Wildlife. If time moves forward, we could place those into jeopardy. So I wanted to open it up again per the Commissioner's request at our last meeting. We've received some additional assurances, and I believe, Commissioner Yeager, you've had some conversations as well. But I just wanted to introduce it and ask you if you could comment.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is something that at the end of the day, we're going to have to figure out how to do. But there for a long period of time, I could not commit the county to $70,000 to do this habitat conservation plan. We don't have it. I explained that to the FWC. They understand that. They know that. They have committed to us that it won't be any dollar amount. It will be basically some of the services that maybe possibly we've already provided and some of the services that we'll continue to provide as the match for the county's match. So they've assured me all the way to Nick Wiley at the top of FWC that this will not cost the taxpayers any money. It's a $450,000 study is basically what it is, and we've got a grant that's been approved. We just want to proceed now with their assurances that it won't cost the taxpayers any money, and that's the point that we've got to, and we feel very comfortable to moving forward. Now, the reason that this got to this point is because of some of the building issues and the permit issues that were happening mostly in Cape San Blas, could possibly happen in Commissioner Bryan's district also. But it got to the point to where we have got to get this habitat conservation plan. It'll be a countywide habitat conservation plan. It's a $450,000 habitat conservation plan, so it's something that we've got to get done as a community to make sure that somebody can build their home, and Pat Hardman's in the audience, that somebody can build their home without, such restrictive issues. And so I think with that, I feel comfortable now that the county won't have to spend any dollars. It'll be in-kind match, and I'll make a motion to proceed with the with going forward with that.
Motion by Mr. Yeager,
Second.
second by Mr. McDaniels. Do I have any opposed? Do I have any opposed? No opposed, motion carried, 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, this wasn't, but the discussion earlier, I just wanted to go back to it. I have an opportunity to speak right now, and I know the commissioners all commented, but I wanted to go back to the Port Authority real quick. The actual loan agreement that you had all discussed earlier, taking you all back to April of 2011, just for the commissioners' clarification for the public. At that time, you had all motioned and approved the use of that Raffield freezer money as you all got back into the county. And when the authorization went to go forward to give the port that money, we as a staff went back and obviously pulled the economic development obligations going back almost 20 years for those funds, that how they got to Gulf County. And I just wanted to offer, there's a couple things that were in there, and there was a discussion earlier. There was a loan agreement in place with the Port Authority that's still binding right now. Above and beyond the note, above and beyond the mortgage that we have right now, we have a loan agreement. There's specific deliverables in that loan agreement that go back 20 years and mirror the purpose of that money and how it got to Gulf County. And it was for business development, it was for job growth. Those deliverables are in the current loan agreement we have with the Port Authority. There's reporting requirements where they're to come back and let you all know about the job growth and let you all know about business development. When you voted in April of 2011 to move forward, there was an authorization to provide the funds. We as a staff went back and then secured a note. Beyond the note, there was no Arizona Chemical at the time, so there was no other parcel of property. That's the only collateral that we could get. We spoke with Tom Gibson, who was the Port Authority attorney at the time, and got approval, executed that. Going back also, in terms of the costs, the Port Authority paid those recording costs. So if we do, to answer Commissioner McDaniel's questions earlier, and some of the other commissioners, can it be done? Can we do a substitution of collateral? We can. Can we do a mortgage modification? We can. Can we do a title history on the property? We can do that. Can we find out affidavits on the property and get insurance and get indemnifications? There's a lot of issues that need to be answered, but can it be done? It can be. But moving forward, like I said, right now we have a note, we have a mortgage, and we have a loan agreement in place. And as was mentioned earlier, they're going through the process with Capital City Bank right now. It's been postponed for another 60 days, which we're 15 days into right now. However, that issue resolves itself with the Capital City being first in line. This commission then, a year and a half ago, went out and subordinated your loan again, working with the Port Authority to move it down to enable them additional time. So the loan agreement has already been addressed in the last 2 years, and it can be again. As we go forward, if there is an ability, I will certainly go to that Port Authority meeting. I'll certainly discuss that with the chairman, Mr. Costin, and I can come back and discuss with you all as what they come up with or their requests at their next meeting, so we can continue the dialogue. But just wanted to go back and let you know there are several things there, obviously, that the port should be doing in terms of job growth, and Commissioner McLemore, you had commented earlier. There were assurances in that agreement that I would be happy to provide to all of you at the next meeting, above and beyond just simply a loan instrument, deliverables from the Port Authority. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that County Attorney Novak attend the next Port Authority meeting so he can be there and hear what their comments are, and they may even can have some questions for him, and that may speed the process up a little bit.
Mr. Chair, I was not at the last county commission meeting, but I know a discussion, I don't have the written minutes, but a discussion about recycling effort. And we have, in our tentative budget for October, we have put $10,000 in a line item for county's recycling effort. But between now and the last day of September, is it the board's desire for us to move forward with waste management for them to provide facilities, maybe at Salinas Park, to start recycling?
That was one of the top things on my list, and I'd like to proceed, and if any other commissioners got any comments, that would be fine. But I think that we need to provide that opportunity for recycle. I'm not necessarily mandatory recycle, but we need to provide that opportunity, and it's a small price, I think, to pay, and it'll give us a little indication of what we may wind up doing at the landfill or something at the landfill with recycle. So, I'm in support of moving forward with that.
My issue is that I still have not received any information on this $6,000 pilot program. I am all for recycling, but I've talked to some staff. They didn't have any information on it either. There's nothing in the packet for this meeting. I don't know how many cans we're talking about. It's $6,000. It's a considerable amount of money from the county, and where is it covering? I just, again, would like to have more information.
We've got Lynn Yort with Waste Management in the audience. Lynn, can you come and kind of give us a little clue? I apologize. I thought that the email that I got, that all of our emails go through our deal, so I thought that email was distributed.
That's okay. Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and thank you for your question. What we have discussed is providing a convenience recycle center. And for the record, I'm Lynn Yort. I'm with Waste Management. And the recycle center will provide for single or dual stream recycling. We will pay for, or the $6,000 pays for the rental on the can. We'll have 2 cans so that when we bring one over empty, we pick up the full one and take it back. We will only provide a pull when the can is full. So the actual cost pays for the rental per month, as well as the pull and the disposal of the recyclables over in Panama City.
How long?
We propose doing a pilot for maybe throughout the summer season, the 4 months, 3 months of the summer, so that we can see the potential, the interest, the participation, so that we can provide the board with information as you finalize your budget as to whether or not this is something that you want to move forward with.
Lynn, can you describe the can? Because when you say can, it almost
Okay,
seems like a
thank you.
little thing out there.
No,
Just okay.
it's a big roll-off. It's a 20-yard disposable unit. It has, it's rectangular at bottom, angle sides that go up with slide plastic doors so that the recyclable material stays relatively clean and dry, and then it's roofed.
So it's one location.
Yes.
The $6,000 pilot program would cover one location for 3 months or 4
For
months?
4 months.
For 4 months.
Right.
The $6,000, Mr. Yeager, where's that coming from?
I would propose probably, there's a couple different places that we get it from, but I'd probably reserve as the easiest place just to move it from reserve to a line item that would pay for this. That's where I would probably propose.
Okay. And on that answer, I'm gonna have to object on this. I mean, it's not in the budget. You know, we can't keep deep in our reserves. It's something I don't wanna do. I probably wouldn't have a problem with it if we get it into the budget
Okay.
at that time frame.
I understand your concerns. There again, I'd like to do this pilot program so that we can get some valuable information on whether it's feasible for us to continue with that. So with that, Lynn, I appreciate you describing what the program was.
My can description?
That's
Okay.
good.
Let me say this, Lynn, I'm on the budget committee again this year, and we're in budget, and money's tight, you know. We got the old buffalo hollering on the nickel,
Yes, sir.
squeezing him. But anyway, this is a good pilot project for the future, and I want to tell you this. Brian and I sat in with our state representative, and he was talking about recycling at Alachua County. I think I'm correct. It's the #1 county in the state of Florida. Recycling, that's over in the Gainesville area.
Right.
There. But it's something to look at. Now, this morning coming to work, I got a call, and as soon as this meeting's over, another meeting, I got to meet code enforcement up in Weewahitchka, where someone just dumped their garbage, everything out, and we'll find out who done it and address that issue. But this may be we tried. It's successful, and it can be moved on out into other parts of the county. If it's not, then yes, we can say we tried it, but we're not going to know if it's going to work if we don't try it.
Yes, sir.
And this, down in the Salinas Park area, I think would be the ideal place to, if we implement this pilot program, would be the ideal place to try it.
Yes, sir.
I supported recycling when I first come on. I started talking about it to different members of the departments, and I support recycling 'cause I think that's something we should do.
Thank you.
Not just as a county, but as a city and a county as a whole.
I know that the city did try putting out recycling bins around the city. Do we know why that didn't work?
I don't know.
I'm not sure either. I will say I've reached out to the city, and I've reached out to the mayor. The mayor wants to be involved. They want the city to be involved somehow with the recyclables. They want to give their constituency the same opportunity as we're providing. And so I think at the end of the day, once this pilot program is complete, we'll have enough information to say, city, you can participate too, and we may have something going forward that will work for all our citizens.
Well, as of right now, if I'm not mistaken, the city have 2 bins, sitting one at the 10th Street ballpark one sitting over for, Avenue D and, North Luther King Boulevard. If, I think those two, bins is for recycling.
I think what everybody wants to do is, some of the recyclables that's offered now, it's multi-stream, and it's hard to get rid of. I think the opportunity that we're providing now is that at the end of the day, I'd like to see it pay for itself. It may not ever do that, but at the end of the day, this is a better option for it to at least pay part of the tab. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I'll put in a motion that we excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, the only issue I have, Mr. Jaeger, like I said, is going outside our budget on this. That's my biggest concern, but I look back 8-10 years ago with the city of St. Joe, they had free labor on a recycling program. Didn't survive. So I don't know the issue, I don't know the deal with it, but
Well, I think that's why we're going to Waste Management. They're the professionals at this. We don't have to provide any labor or anything. They're going to provide it. I think after this pilot program, we'll see if it's feasible or not for the county to.
what is your goal for it to pay for itself now?
That's my goal.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is for it to pay for itself. And I think after this pilot program, we'll be able to see that.
I just have another question for Ms. York. Ms. York, are these cans the type that have a different opening for each type of recycling, and it would accept plastic, glass, newspapers?
Yes.
And so the idea is that people voluntarily bring their recycling to the location and make use of the bins. So
That's correct.
what is the evaluation at the end of the program? How do we evaluate what's happened to see if it works or not?
We'll be able to tell you the number of tons of waste that you have diverted out of the main waste stream. So every time we pull the can, we'll be able to tell you how many tons of recycling materials were brought in.
You'll break that down?
Yes, sir.
Well, from what I'm gathering with this letter from the lady who cleaned up the parks, they already bringing the garbage to the parks. So we can get them to just separate it,
Yeah, and that's going to be your problem. That's going to be my question now. Right now, is how are you going to get the people to keep from just dumping a truckload of garbage there?
Thank you. That's a great question. The original plan is to have the can located at Salinas Park. If that is not going to work because people contaminate the recyclables, because once garbage goes in, it all becomes garbage, would be to locate the recycling can at a place that is better lit, as well as have staff and personnel on. And we've discussed sort of initially the possibility of one of the fire stations in the south area of the county.
Yeah, I think, now that may work at a fire station, but at these parks, we've got the letter right here saying it don't work.
And we'll be glad to go ahead and locate it, work with the fire department to make sure that that works with them too. We're not going to impede their work.
One good thing about this is the Salinas Park area is right next to that fire department. And we actually went down and looked at the locations, and we thought about putting it in a location where the fire department's got a camera. And it just didn't work right there at Salinas Park on that side. So we've put it on the opposite side of the fire station. At the end of the day, if we have some contamination, those cameras are cheap. It may be that we just put a camera up and say this is got surveillance on it. But at the end of the day, I think that's what this pilot program is going to tell us.
I think we're asking for trouble.
Mr. Chairman, I think.
Do we have anything for the public?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Lynn.
Pat Hardman, Coastal Community Association. Would like for you to consider doing this as the pilot. There's a couple of different reasons. It's the right thing to do. Not a reason that we usually make a decision, but it is the right thing to do. It's a leave no trace. It helps the environment. It helps us in terms of at least saying we're making a good faith effort to meet some of the state requirements that we're not meeting at this time. So at least we can say, hey, we're trying, y'all. We're trying to do something about recycling to meet the laws that you put on us, unfunded mandates. So that would help us out. Basically, we went down, we looked, we opened up the backside of to the fire station there. Will be located next to some regular trash containers that are there to hopefully keep down the use of this container. It's no reason to put it in the recycle container when you have a container, household garbage, right next to it. And hopefully what we might do is to develop habits on recycling. Salinas Park's convenient for Indian Pass folks and for the Cape folks, and then hopefully if we do this and it works, we can move it over to the beaches as well. But we can develop a habit. Joe had brought up that he wants to make about $90,000 a year on recycling. Well, I had worked with the city of Tallahassee, who has on environmental issues up there, and one of the problems with recycling is volume. You've got to get your volume up. And hopefully, if we could get the habit going, that this would bring enough volume in that we could then help Joe meet some of those requirements or volume that he'll need out in his landfill a couple of years from now. I know it sounds big, but the 6,000 is a worst-case scenario based on the fact that they're out there dumping it maximum number of times between now and October. This really will give us some groundwork. Recycling is hard to pay for itself. I'm hoping we can get that 90,000 figure, because that comes out of ad valorem taxes if we don't, that Joe wants. But it's hard to pay for itself. But we really have a pretty good demand in South Gulf County from people who are used to doing this, and from people that come visit that really have resistance of throwing a can or a piece of plastic in my garbage can. So I know it sounds like a lot, but I hope y'all will vote and let us go ahead and try it, and see if we can't get it on the ground, and maybe, hopefully, we can just go out and try to find some grants or something that will help us do this later. Give us a little groundwork, but we've got something that we can say, hey, y'all, we put X number of tons of garbage out of the environment that can be recycled and used again. Some numbers that we would have.
Ms. Hardman, can I ask, do you know if there's been any discussion, or maybe Commissioner Yeager, with any of the property managers down at the Cape? I know there's a lot of folks who vacation down there. Has there been any discussion that they may be willing to put out small bins for the recycling and bring the recycling from their renters or tenants to the one site to dispose of those recycling items?
There has been some discussion with that. Matter of fact, some of the discussion was to provide one for every rental unit, because so many of the rental folks recycle from where they come from. But there again, it was cost prohibitive to do it before we do this pilot program. I think once we do this pilot program, it'll maybe give us some numbers whether we should proceed with that type or whether we not.
And we the TDC is willing to help market this, get it out there. Coastal Community Association will do it with our locals. They'll do it with the blow-ins, and we'll do it with the locals. In terms of here it's available and to be able to recycle here. And I think getting this pilot out there, and we're trying to get it during these summer months to show what type of volume we might be able to really generate. So that's one of the reasons to ask you to go ahead and let us move on it. TDC has said they're going to help out. I think you'll find that the rental folks are going to climb on board with us too. I can't guarantee that. I hadn't talked to each one, but it's something that they want as well.
I think, if there's no further discussion, and I understand your concerns, Commissioner McLemore, if you can't vote for this, because a lot of times I'm opposed to taking money out of reserve anyway, but I think this is an opportunity that we can move forward and proceed with that. So I'll put a motion on the floor that we proceed with that recycle program, move the money from reserve into an appropriate line item and proceed with that.
I'm sorry, is it up to 6,000?
Yes, matter of fact, I think, and Pat made that point, I think that number's going to be much less than that. However, that's a worst-case scenario where they have to come over here more often than they think they will.
Second for
Got a
discussion.
motion on the floor by Mr. Yeager. I got a second for discussion by Mr.
Just to comment on this, back with the city of Port St. Joe, when the paper mill was running, they were a little successful with it. They were losing money on their glass and other things and their plastics, but they were, I understand, making a little money off of the paper, the cardboard or whatever they got from a paper company. Same way with, I've had discussions with several meetings with Waste Management. Gulf County, I think Jackson County has like 500,000 tons, maybe 4 landfills. Jackson County reaps a little profit from Waste Management. Waste Management pays them. But Gulf County, we only have one, and Joe, what do we do, 7,000 tons a year? If that. So it's not feasible. It's losing. We can't make any money off our landfill the way we operate it now. And we may not can make any off this, but we just got to look at it and try it. That's all. My motion stands. Second stands.
Got a second by Mr. Mike Daniels. Do I have any opposed? Got one opposed. Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Chef? Ms. Bryant?
The only thing that I have is just to touch base with Mr. Butler, maybe Mr. Danford regarding where we are on moving forward after our workshop on transfer station and the garbage pickup issue. I just want to make sure that we are still moving forward.
Our assumption is, because the way Joe left it, if you did tell him what to do, he's going to move forward on it. Our assumption is you're going to go to a transfer station. We really need a vote of the board so we can be making plans that way. What you may do is go to a transfer station, you may expand the landfill. The cheapest method would to go to a transfer station.
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and give direction to Mr. Danford to move forward with looking at the transfer station.
I'll second that.
I got a motion
That's
by
a good
Ms.
Okay, so what's going to happen? Yeah, what's going to happen now is that Five Points landfill is going to run out its life. Okay, if it lasts 5 years, it lasts 5 years. It lasts 9 years, it lasts 9 years. Whatever 5 Points landfill can bear. Okay, we get a storm, 2 storms, we might make it 2 or 3 years. Okay, but whatever it takes, 5 Points landfill is going to run out its life. I'm going to anticipate that it's going to make it about another 5-6 years. And I'm going to educate my staff towards a transfer station so they can be certified to operate a transfer station. I'm going to look at other transfer stations to see how they work. And I believe in plagiarism. It's a good way to go. If somebody's already created the ball, no use for us to try to do it again. So that's how it's going to work. And hopefully whoever y'all decide, hint, hint, is going to take my place, that they can go with my plans and run with them. All right?
Mr. Danford, just for the public out here, the transfer stations, right now we have the, in the north end of the county, the Buckhorn landfill. You and I was talking last week.
Oh, yeah.
And we've been monitoring it for how many years now?
Let's see, 20 years.
20 years. All right. And now then we picked up some more. We're going to have to move on the east side of 71. We've detected, or the DEP has detected, a problem over there from this landfill. And so we may go another how many years? Don't know.
In perpetuity.
That's right.
Until
All right,
it
on
gets
the
sorted out.
transfer, let's just say when it shuts down, it's all over. There's no 20, 30, 40 years of follow-up on it.
We already have an obligation for the 5 Points landfill.
I mean, I know it's,
Okay,
it's,
all right.
Buckhorn, we're still monitoring Buckhorn. Are you monitoring out here on 382?
Yes, and the transfer station is gonna fall within, Five Points landfill. It's already surrounded by monitoring wells. We don't have to do any of that. And we're gonna see to that obligation to 5 Points for 20, 30 years afterwards. Okay, so the transfer station is a non-entity as far as 5 Points is concerned.
But when you close landfill, it's closed, but it's not closed. You still got to monitor it for
Yes,
God
sir.
knows how many years.
Yes, sir.
And we have to foot the bill on it.
Yes, sir.
Joe, just one question, and this is maybe a little off the subject, but I know that when the city did the half-cent sales tax, and Don, you may remember this discussion, they had committed the half-cent sales tax to the landfill, or either they would pay landfill fees. Are they paying the landfill fees, or are they paying?
They're paying landfill fees.
Okay.
Okay.
Got a motion by Ms. Bryant. I got a second by Mr. Mike Daniels. Mr. Yeagers, I'm sorry. That was Mr. Yeagers. Second by Mr. Yeagers. Do I have any opposed? Do I have any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
My other issue is the mandatory garbage pickup, and I would like for us to gather more information regarding the, actually putting that into place so that we can look at what it means to have the mandatory garbage pickup. So I would like to ask staff to gather that information and come back to us. I don't know if we need a
Just a
motion
comment.
for that.
There's what we call soft mandatory, and there's hard mandatory. Soft, we just make it mandatory, people get on garbage system. The harder version would be that goes on your tax bill. That'll show up once a year on the same bill as your ad valorem tax. So we'll bring both of those back to you.
That would be great. And of course, a provision for folks who are in economic need as well, that we've discussed in the past.
First thing I want to do is I want to, page, I think, 6 of the consent agenda. Michael, y'all had number 1 as Kathy Construction, okay, and we've approved that. I may or may not need to abstain. Clay, you can tell me, because I don't do anything in Gulf County, but is Preble Rish on that team?
We are.
I know you were on several, so I need to abstain from that page, so I need to make a motion to that, Mr. Attorney, or just abstain
If you can, just note for the record, you rescind your approval and your vote earlier
on page 5?
on,
Page
with
6.
regards to that, if we can note that for the clerk's minutes, and then also if you can execute a Form 8B,
Okay.
we'll incorporate that as part of the minutes as well.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Mr. Yeager, second by Mr. Michael Moore. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0.
Want to bring you up to date a little bit on the consortium. We had another consortium meeting on the oil spill. A lot was discussed. There's actually things online that you can go and see the presentations. There is now money in the trust fund. We're still waiting on Treasury regs to get the rules on how counties can expend that and how the states can spend that. But at the end of the day, we've got the money, we've got some of the monies there, and the last thing that we heard was actually from Senator Nelson's office, I think, and they're supposed to get those regs, a draft of those regulations to the counties and the states next month. Once they receive comments back, then they will either apply those comments or not apply them, and we should have those Treasury regs hopefully by the end of the summer is what we're hoping. And then, we got to decide how to spend those dollars. And speaking to that, I've talked to Darrell Boudreau, who used to be with DEP, and now he's with the Nature Conservancy. And what some of the other partner counties are starting to do, like Escambia and Santa Rosa and Walton and Okaloosa, is have a meeting to discuss regional projects that would qualify not only for your county's pots, but would qualify for a number of different areas where there's money. There's so much money there, not only the restore, but there's NERDA funds that can be expended. There's also what they call NIFWIF, which is natural, I think it's the National Federation of Wildlife, or National Wildlife Federation. And there's hundreds of millions of dollars in there. If we can partner with another county to talk about our watersheds and how our rivers are flowing and affect numerous counties, then we can access some of those dollars for some of the projects that should be done anyway. So what I've asked Don to do, and I think, Don, you've probably already got the call from Darrell about scheduling a meeting with Franklin and Gulf, and what the Nature Conservancy would like to do is maybe even consider bringing in Wakulla County with our with our group to talk about projects that would qualify. We need expert folks to spend this money, and many of the other counties have already hired folks. What we've delayed all that, the committee's delayed all that, because right now we can't expend those dollars without it coming out of your tax dollars. So we're waiting for the feds to set their regulations to maybe get some help, but in the meantime, we may get all the help we need from folks like the Nature Conservancy, from DEP, from, they even wanted the water management districts to be involved in that meeting. So Don, did you get a call from Darrell yet?
I called Darrell.
Okay.
I called him. Darrell wants to come into Gulf County, probably going to be maybe next week to be here. It'd be great if the chairman could call. We'd like to publicly notice this meeting when we have the meeting, and idea would be in the EOC. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of parties there, and Franklin County will be here. And if we'll publicly notice it when we do get it tied down, we have a tentative of June the 5th, which is next Wednesday. But we'll find more. We'll find out today when he can get his parties here.
Okay.
But yes, he wants to come in, and between us and Franklin, maybe Wakulla, we can discuss how regionally we can handle some of this BP funds without overlapping to what someone else wants to do. We want to do some of the same things that Franklin wants to do, and Bay, and Wakulla, and Walton, other counties. So instead of us spending this different money doing the same thing, we can take the same money and do it one time.
Right. The EDA gave a presentation down at our last meeting, and one of the things that they talked about was some of these groups, and they're environmental groups, but some of these groups are trying to align themselves to get money out of different pots for the same project. I think if we work together with DEP, with the Water Management District, with the Nature Conservancy, and others, that we'll better make sure that our monies are spent on the appropriate projects and it's not overlapping with something else. We can work on regional projects, and that's what they're looking for. So just for the board's attention, if we're going to notice that meeting, it'd be good as many of y'all can be there as you can to hear that discussion. And most of it will be between the agencies, and so it'll be good discussion. So that's forthcoming. I think that's all I had, Mr. Chairman. I've got too many notes in front of me, but I think that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two quick items. Last week, Mr. Butler and I had an opportunity to meet with DOT upon 386 and 71 about this intersection, Sheriff. Some good information. They gave some good, they said Gulf County had really went above and beyond on the county portion on 386, but they're going to help us out with 71 with that intersection. And they will provide, I think we're going to agree to do the labor, and they would send the signs. They will put up a new one of these solar light systems there for us. And going right along with that, over the weekend, I was down in Port St. Joe, and looked like, Ms. Jenkins, we had a great turnout. And yesterday afternoon, and a lot of you know where I live, but not, I don't know, at the boats that were heading north up 71 and coming off of 386. So hopefully the merchants here in Port St. Joe and all over the county and the rental areas, this was a good, successful Memorial Day, and the advertisement is paying off. Mr. Chairman, that's all. Thank you.
Well, I got lots of constituents coming up to me because they stuck with one problem. And the problem that they're stuck with, when you pay to the city hall more for a water utility bill than you pay to Gulf Power, you got a serious problem. I got numerous of constituents coming up to me telling me that, Pan, I don't know what to do. My utility bill for City Hall is just gone outrageous. I had a young man who lived in St. Joe, who moved away from St. Joe, but still owned property in St. Joe. And he was hit with a $1,000 water bill. I had another constituent hit with a $1,300 water bill. And, you know, I don't understand what's going on. And the only thing that I see on the table for City Hall discussing the high rates of the water is putting another raise on the table to raise the water rates. Now, I don't know how long the people of St. Joe going to sit back and allow this to go on. If the city need to file bankruptcy, let them file bankruptcy and don't bankruptcy me. Because that's what's going on. You got people, right now I had a young man come up to me, he said, Mr. Tan, I draw $290 for the week. The payment that I sent to the city hall was $280. This is getting outrageously. Something has got to be did. If you take that police department and consolidate with the sheriff department, that's a $500,000 saved right there. And nobody from the city is willing to talk about it to try to help the people. Because the ones that's in charge of making the decision, those poor young ladies up there in City Hall who take in the money, they catch the devil from people coming up paying high water rates. And those young ladies have nothing to do with the rate. All they do is collect the money. But they are catching the devil from people. And the ones who can make the decision is our commissioners. The city, the constituents of the city need to call our commissioners and let them know something got to be did. Because it's getting outrageously. People are paying $180 utility bill to City Hall, and then they got to turn around and pay $50 on top of that for the bill that they couldn't afford last month. These things is getting outrageously. That man sitting right there running for his position. But when the people of the city of St. Joe and the people of the county decide that we want a new sheriff, we vote in a new sheriff. We decided we wanted him, we put him in. No one have a say so over the chief of police. No one. That position carried too much power for the people of St. Joe not to have no type of say so. I feel deep in my heart we need one police department that could say the city right at $500,000 to $600,000, $500,000 right off the bat, saved, and nobody's willing to look at it. Nobody is willing to take time out to discuss this. And I want the citizens of St. Joe to know, especially those 50 to 100 people that don't come to me about the water problems. You guys can make the difference. Pick up your phone. Call your commissioner. Go to his house. Knock on his door. Go to his job. Get him. Get his attention. Let him know that you got a serious problem. You come to my job, let me know just how bad your problem is. I can't change it. I'm a county commissioner. If I could change the water rates in the city of Pope St. Joe, they'll be on their way down because we'll be consolidating with the county right now. And all the city got to do is one of them get up enough nerve to say, I want to call a workshop, ask that sheriff to come to the table, put some numbers on the table so everybody in the city could see. Right now, our city constituents pay for 2 police departments, 2 building departments, 2 code enforcement. And the only reason we pay is because somebody who's sitting in the position like I'm sitting in right now feel like the city of St. Joe should pay for those 2 things. And that's wrong. Now, Commissioner Bryant don't have this problem. Commissioner Michael Moore don't have it. Commissioner Mike Daniels don't have it. A little bit of it hit Commissioner Yeager. But it all fall down on top of me. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Normally, when you got, in my district, it's combined of both whites and blacks. And normally, when you got a group on the white side that's complaining about something, just that group, we can work it on it, or just on the black side, we can work. But when you got that same complaint coming from both sides, we got a problem. Everything is on the table right now that the city is looking at have nothing to do with bringing the water rates down. And our quality of water, it's about like going to a restaurant, sit down to eat, they tell you what you're going to eat and make you pay for it going out the door. Because right now we taking in water, and if half of us right now could say that we don't want that water, we'll go to another means. But it's a shame that we got to pay for it. But now I do understand that they got a problem. They got a serious problem with the water. Sitting down talking with them, talking with Mr. Anderson, he's working on it as hard as he can work on it. I think they could work a little harder. Everybody in this district, everybody in this city have made sacrifices with this water rate because they asked us for more, we gave more. Even though it might have hurt us in some places, we gave more as citizens of St. Joe. Now the only thing I'm asking as a concerned citizen of St. Joe, that the city show me that they making changes to help out with this. I say it again, I'm going to say it. Half of the problem is sitting right there, and nobody's willing to do it. Nobody's willing to look at it. The only reason we had 2 police departments, it was because of the paper company. If anybody lived around here for a long period of time, you know the reason we had 2 is because of St. Joe Paper Company. A lot of the fine things that we had around here is because of St. Joe Paper Company. But they gone now, and we don't have them. So now we have to step back and look at the situation. Do we continue to run the rates up? The average water bill running from $100 to $200. The average bill. I really don't understand how some people is paying them. Young man was hit with a $1,000 water bill. He said he's not coming back to St. Joe. I closed the house down, boarded up, I'm not coming back here. I refuse to pay that. This is getting insane. I chose to speak about it today simply because I want those commissioners from the city to know that Tan Smiley, as a commissioner, don't agree with it, and Tan Smiley, as a citizen of St. Joe, don't agree with it. Something got to come to a halt. You can't continue to come after me and my household asking me to pay those high rates. When I fill up my bathtub, it look like somebody already bathed in the bathtub. Now, I understand you got a problem, but don't punish me. That's all I'm asking. Don't punish the constituents. The peoples of St. Joe, our peoples in St. Joe is leaving out the city to go into the county. And the population is steady dropping. If you build Mr. Mike Daniels, I got a question for you. How much do it cost to build a new house in Weewalt for tapping fees?
Talking about with this in the city?
It's in the city.
To hook up the water, a home, the water line there, I think it's $120.
Now, guess what it costs to hook up in the city of St. Joe? $5,000. Come on, guys. Come on. Now, we're in the same county. And then you wonder why people are leaving the city to go into the county. I just asked the citizens of St. Joe to step up, put the weight on the city commissioner's back, and make them sit down to the table with our sheriff and look at it. We want a workshop. I'm asking the city commissioner to call a workshop with our sheriff, to put some numbers on the table, so we'll know the numbers. And then the peoples of St. Joe can determine if they want 2 police departments or not. Because as of right now, it's peoples in the city of St. Joe, they can determine who they want for sheriff, but they can't determine who they want for chief of police. And like I said once, that position carries too much weight. Do I have anything else from the public?
I'd like to comment on what you just said, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Chairman. First of all, combining law enforcement don't have anything to do with water and city rates. That's a total different ballgame. Secondly, the city of Port St. Joe, like most of your municipalities, operate under a charter form of government. We'd have to go back and possibly modify or revisit the charter, because I'm pretty sure I know the charter. I know familiar with the one in Weaver Hitchcock, but I'm sure the city charter of City of Port St. Joe calls for a police department in there, and so you just can't. There's certain things you have to look into, but consolidating the law enforcement won't necessarily lower your water rates. We're trying to put apples and oranges.
Well, Mr. Mike Daniel, it won't listen. Okay, I can break it down even a little bit further.
This is a city issue.
Okay, let me go a little bit further. It's Avalon taxes that pay for your police department. Avalon taxes pay the salaries inside of City Hall. Avalon taxes. Right now, they're using up all our Avalon taxes, with over half of it going off to the police department. So what they're having to do is use some of your payment rates to help pay these salaries. So now we can stop them from taking this to help pay salaries and use what we're supposed to use to pay the salaries. We can reduce something on the other end. So, I mean, it can be worked out. And that charter, it's just on another piece of paper. Just like we're talking about changing this in local, it can be changed, especially when you see a need. And right now, we have a need in St. Joe. So, yes, all this money is green, and it all relates together. And if we can cut back on how much we're putting out, we don't have to take in so much. Now, I truly feel that one. And once these utility rates hit you 2 or 3 times, now the summertime coming around, we used to have some pretty yards in St. Joe. I'm gonna see if we're gonna continue to have it, because I can't see it happening. Anything else from the public, Mr.
I missed a bid getting into consent. We had a wild Wednesday morning, but we took bids 2 weeks ago for the inmate phone system. It has no impact on your budget. It's inmate welfare money, but it's bid 1213-11. We had 2 bids, the current carrier Amtel and Legacy Long Distance, and we recommend Amtel to be negotiated. The contract has expired. The attorney did draft a new contract for a multi-year extension.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Mr. Yeager. Second by Mr. Michael Moore. Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries 5-0. Do I have anything from the public? Do I have anything from the public?
I'm not on the agenda, but I want to give you a quick, brief update on a couple of things to dovetail on what Mr. Costin talked about earlier. It'll be the same thing, I promise you.
Hello, Barry.
Hello. Good news. Project Fast Pace is doing just that. We're on a fast pace. And what I'm going to let you know is we're going to have the
proprietors of the company back in the county early this week and late next week. And what they want to do is go by and introduce themselves to each one of you. They've met several of you in passing and spent some time with several of you as well to kind of put a face to the name and let you know what they are coming to bring to Port St. Joe and to Gulf County. And we certainly are excited about this. We think we'll have an announcement before the first of the month with this company. And again, some of you have met them already, and you've kind of get to vet them a little bit. And they're looking at housing already. They're excited to get here. So we're very much on pace to hopefully have our first announcement sometime between now and July 1st. The company's M3 Corporation. They do government contracting with our different various entities in the military. They've recently landed a small contract with the Naval Department over in Panama City. They're working on 2 larger contracts now with the Air Force, and hopefully we'll have some information and news on that within the next couple of weeks as well. So what they want to do is lease property here in Gulf County to start with long-term, long-range plans of building, including looking at the Arizona chemical site, which where they're going to locate now. We'll have that announcement in a couple of weeks, but it'll be right there in that vicinity as well. So that's our best southern Gulf County project right now. The best in the northern side is Project Talk. Project Talk, we talked to you a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago. The company is looking at doing customer service calls in and out on warranties and service plans for a large national electronics manufacturer. They've narrowed it down to 3 locations. Weehawahitchka is one of those 3 locations. Hopefully between now and the first of the month as well, they'll learn if they're going to get this large contract. It'll be a 2-year contract to start, and they would need 20 people to start and probably top out at 40 within a year. So we're very excited about that as well. The Bill's Dollar Store location, they have looked at a couple other locations since then, but that location they're looking at possibly purchasing it, and it's a lease to purchase situation. So we've got 4 or 5 other projects at various stages we're working at, and we're getting calls every day. We're getting visits every week, and I just got to really take my hat off to Mr. Pitts. Tommy Pitts is a good Christian man. You can take his word to the bank. He's full of information, and not only on the port, but also Port St. Joe, Gulf County. His wife's from Weehawahitchka, so she's got a lot of history of that area as well. We're going to have dinner with them. They're a big asset for the community, and anytime I am not in the county, I'm out of the county, he's here to show property and to talk with our prospects, and I do the same thing when he goes to Ports Council meetings and things. I'm in the office, so we've got a good 1-2 punch going there right now. I'm going to leave a week from today for Atlanta. I think I've talked to y'all a little bit about my plans to go to the site selector clusters in the 4 areas of the country, with Atlanta next week and hopefully New York 2 weeks away from that. What I'm going to do, and I've got some information here, I'll pass this by to you, from each of our nonprofit partners. And we've got a couple of corrections to make on those, hopefully in the next couple of days. But we've gotten information to let people know all about Gulf County. We've got 5 great nonprofit directors, I believe, in this county that work well together and share information, and we're going to drop that off and let them know everything we've got going on. The big thing about it is what was mentioned earlier in the meeting, is when you were talking to Mr. Costin, is a lot of people do not realize that Port St. Joe and the Gulf County is open for industrial development along those waterways. And when St. Joe Company did change their plans and their focus on developing the port property, we're going out there and we're letting them know that we are open for business. We definitely want you here, and so that's going to be a big part of what we do on these trips. I think I've mentioned before, I'm pretty tight with the nickels, you say. I don't know about the Buffalo screaming or not, Commissioner McDaniel, but we're pretty tight with the money there. And we will not have any lodging bills because we've got friends and family in those 4 clusters in the area. So it's very nice to get a home-cooked meal and get to visit family and friends, but also get to work real hard and not have to worry about a $200 or $300 per night hotel bills, what you're going to get in most of the larger cities when you're in the city center to where you can walk to the offices and things like that. So a lot of good things happening. A couple of questions I need to ask for you is, on this project, Fast Pace, one thing that's very important to them is telecommunications. And most of you are familiar with the Opportunity Florida Broadband Initiative that we're a part of. We're needing to get Jim Brook, who's the director of Opportunity Florida, in here pretty soon to let us know about where and when we can locate a tower for our area. Most of the time, they do it in kind with the cities and the counties in the region, and that's our part of putting the money in there, giving them a place to put the microwave antennas up to where they can receive maximum signal and strength and density. So we're hoping to get him in here. I think he was going to contact y'all sometime early this week as well. For the holiday, it kind of caught him off, but that's going to be a big deal, not only for this company, but for the entire community, letting people in the rural areas have access to high-speed broadband internet capabilities.
Barry, if I'm not mistaken, and Don, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we've made that determination and give them a site at Beacon Hill. And absolutely, that broadband is going to be great. There's no question about it.
So we really appreciate everything and your support. And like I said, I will contact each of you that have not met with Mr. Mouton and his group over the next week or so. Come up and to Weewa Hitchka and talk to Mr. Butler as well here at the office. And hopefully, like I said, by this time next month we'll have some good news. And the plan is probably to start off in the rental facility with 6 to 8 positions in an office environment, but be between 125 and 175 positions within 1.5 to 2 years. And these are positions that would just run the full gamut on the human resource spectrum, from entry-level blue collar to engineering to management to supervision and everything in between. It'll be a true broad spectrum of employment needs. And of course, we want to get everybody in Gulf County a job that wants one, first off, but also looking to have experts come in and bring their ideas as well to Gulf County. So any other questions?
Barry?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate all you're doing for us, and I think we're on the right track. I've got a lot more confidence in the EDA today than I had a year ago.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. And you've got 5 people from all over the county with a broad background of experience, but they all have one thing in common. They want jobs, and they want people to do well. And I'm very excited to work with them. We will talk to the city of Weewa Hitchka tonight. They've moved their meeting back a day because of the holiday, and give the presentation for them to participate next year, and probably sometime between now and October ask for the private partnership.
Go out and get us all private partners.
You betcha. Thank you.
Do we have anything else from the public? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Mike Moore, second by Mr. Yates.